Prokaryotic cells have been in existence as long as life has existed, approximately 4 billion years ago. And for nearly 2 billion years, they reigned alone until evolution took a turn and the eukaryotic cell was made. Eukaryotic cells are far more complex in that they have a specialized membranous sac called a nucleus that houses the DNA of that cell. In addition, there are several organelles or membranous components that carry out specific functions for the cell. Before diving into the internal anatomy of a cell, you must first start where the external environment ends and where the cell begins, the plasma membrane. All cells have a plasma membrane made up of phospholipid bilayer with embedded proteins performing various functions. A single phospholipid is composed of a glycerol backbone, a phosphate group, and 2 fatty acid chains. The overall function of the plasma membrane is to dictate what enters and exits the cells. Molecules needed by the cell enter, while molecules not needed by the cell, or even those that are harmful to the cell, are prevented entry. Likewise, the plasma membrane allows some molecules to exit the cell, but it retains the necessary molecules from leaving. In addition, there are many surface markers on the outside of the plasma membrane that help the immune system know that the cell belongs to you. Finally, it's important to note the fluidity of the plasma membrane. It is rigid enough to burst open if too much water enters the cell. However, it's fluid enough to self-repair if an object penetrates the bilayer. Now I want to focus more attention to the structural components of the plasma membrane. The bulk of the plasma membrane is made of phospholipids, forming a bilayer allowing easy passage of ions, water, oxygen, to pass inwards, and carbon dioxide, ammonia, and water to pass outwards. Of course, there's many more molecules involved too. Hydrophilic heads are made of glycerol and a phosphate, and these are able to come in contact with the aqueous fluid of both the cytoplasm and extracellular fluid because phosphate is charged and polar, similar to water. Hydrophobic tails are made of fatty acid chains, which are nonpolar and therefore cannot mix with water, which is why they face inwards. Embedded in the plasma membrane are several proteins with varying functions. Some allow nonpolar, non-charged, or even large molecules to pass through, as in protein channels. Others act as enzymes, and still others function in communication. Cholesterol helps to maintain some structure to the plasma membrane since phospholipids alone have the consistency of plant oils. Cholesterol plays an important role of strengthening the cell membrane in animal cells since no cell walls exist in them. Without cholesterol, the membrane could be easily ruptured. Finally, there's glycolipids and glycoproteins, which can be hydrophilic and help the cell interact with the watery environment and are only found on the exterior side. It also aids in cell identification, determining if the cell is part of the self, organism, or foreign. These also form attachment points between cells of multicellular organisms. Now let's go to the inside of the cell, an area called the cytoplasm, which consists of the organelles and gel-like fluid called the cytosol that lies between the plasma membrane and the nuclear boundary called the nuclear envelope. The cytosol is mostly water, but the proteins in the cytosol give it a jelly-like state. In short, the cytoplasm is a region and cytosol is the chemical makeup of the jelly-like material. The cytosol also contains many organic molecules like sugars and fats, as well as electrolytes and minerals like calcium and potassium. Many cellular chemical reactions take place inside the cytoplasm. This next one is a structure exclusively found in eukaryotic cells called the cytoskeleton. This is a network of protein fibers that provide a cell its shape and act as connecting points for organelles. The cytoskeleton can be divided into 3 parts. First are microfilaments, the smallest components, and their job is to move cellular components and assist the cell in cell division. Intermediate fibers are larger than microfilaments and serve the purpose of providing the cell with its shape. And finally, microtubules are the largest of components of the cytoskeleton, and like microfilaments, they help move organelles around the cell. In addition,
Microtubules are integral in physically dividing a cell into two when cell division occurs. And when this happens, a pair of centrosomes, or microtubule organizing centers, form, and this forms the microtubules to assist in cellular division by pulling duplicated chromosomes to opposite ends of a cell before division. Some single-celled eukaryotes depend on the cytoskeleton for movement by specialized structures called flagella and cilia. These are made of microtubules and appear as hair-like extensions from the plasma membrane. The shorter, hair-like extensions are called cilia, and the longer tube-like structure is called a flagellum. Both are used to move cells in a liquid medium. One interesting example of cilia in humans lies in our respiratory tract, where the cells provide mucus and have cilia. The purpose of that cilia is to move mucus and debris from the lungs to your throat, and from there, it leaves your disgusting body. Or you swallow the contents. Yeah. Now that we have seen the major structural components of the cell, let's delve into the system of organelles that functions in producing and delivering various products, the endomembrane system.